with Viktor Orbán's power waning a little in Hungary and new political powers emerging in the country, I am joined now by Stefano Bottoni, a historian and the author of Viktor Orbán's political biography, to discuss the current political landscape in the country. Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
So what image of Viktor Orbán do we have once we read the book?
He's a man captured by his own power. He loves power very much. He wanted so much to become a politician. He became politician very, very early in the late 1980s, in late communist Hungary. He became the leader of a small liberal party. Then he became the youngest prime minister ever in Hungary in 1998. He was only 35. He was pro-West, pro-liberal camp at that time. Then he switched slowly. He moved to the conservative and then to the far-right camp. And after he became once again prime minister in Hungary in 2010, he basically started a new regime called the System of National Cooperation with a brand new constitution. And well, he started to become what he is now, one of the strong men of Europe and a big illiberal global player.
What's behind his endurance as a politician?
Well, the first thing is, yes, I'm contested sometimes on this, but I stick to my point. He has talent. He's a very talented politician, and you couldn't do that without sincere talent, and this talent can't be taught. It is inside you. He's a very skilled politician. He has been around for very much time. When he goes to Brussels, to EU meetings, he not only knows the audience, but he's the oldest in the room. He has seen so many French presidents and even German chancellors, not to speak about Italian prime ministers. He can't even list the names of those who preceded him. The second thing is the Hungarian electoral system. It seems very banal, but without the Hungarian electoral system, which is a mixture of proportional and majoritarian elements, but majoritarian elements are dominant, he couldn't have a two-thirds majority in the parliament, because he regularly gets around 45–50% of popular support, which is a lot, but that would allow him to have a small parliamentary majority, not a constitutional two-thirds majority. The third thing is the opponents. His opponents are very divided, very weak. After 2010, they were delegitimated by the fact that the Hungarian left, liberal left, governed very badly. There was a long period of left liberal government in Hungary between 2002 and 2010, and that was, I would say, everything but successful. So people had a very clear idea: we don't want to have Gyurcsány in power, and until Orban prevents us having these guys and ladies back in power, everything will be fine. And even after that, in the last years, the opposition was weak, divided. Some parts of the opposition were also co-opted, formally or informally, into the new power structure. So he was very lucky with such an opposition. And the last thing, he was very lucky with the international context. The emergence, for example, of Donald Trump helped him immensely, not only in 2016 when Trump first became president of the US, but especially now. He established very important working relations, for example, with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli right-wing government, which is not usual for a right-wing government in Hungary. He has very good relations, of course, we know, with Vladimir Putin and with Erdoğan, the strong man of Turkey. He pretends to be one of the unifier forces of a new right at a European level. And the shifting power towards from the liberal left to the right in many countries of Europe seems also to help him, because once one of these people is ousted of power, others come to save him, to support him. So I think that this is his success can be best explained through a combination of factors.
But now, probably for the first time ever, the support for Viktor Orbán seems to be fading, and there is a new power emerging, the TISZA party. You said that there used to be no strong opposition. Is TISZA a strong enough opposition for Viktor Orbán to actually finally see a change of government in Hungary?
For sure, this is by far the strongest and harshest opposition Fidesz ever had to face since 2010.
Where does that strength come from?
Paradoxically, precisely from the fact that Péter Magyar comes from that system. He knows it too well. He knows all these people, included the black spots, the weak points. He informally knows how to take them psychologically, because he knows.
It make him also more vulnerable because they know him?
Yes, but if you look at the last year, he came out publicly with a coming out in February 2024, and since then they have consistently tried to blackmail him and to defame him without success. So I think they basically shot everything they had on him, and it was not so much. On the contrary, since he spent almost 15 years in the system, and he was the husband to the Minister of Justice, Judit Varga, until 2023.
In Viktor Orbán's government.
Yes, of course, and he was an Orbanist, a diplomat in Brussels for many years after 2010, so he also knows the Brussels diplomacy and bureaucracy. He's a cultural product. In cultural terms, he's a product of Fidesz, which makes him a very funny opponent, because on the one side he's very much right-wing. He's culturally very, very similar to Fidesz, but precisely because he moved out of the system radically, and he can't go back. There is no way back into the system. It's like a mafia, another different kind of mafia, but you can't, if you're a traitor, and he is considered as a traitor by the party, you can't go back. So now he became a staunch opponent, and he's very effective, precisely because he knows better than anyone else the weak points, how to be effective. Of course, this also raised the issue, well, how can you imagine an opponent who is so, from a cultural point of view, political point of view, so close to him? Because, for example, on Ukraine, on Russia, his views are not so different from the views of Viktor Orbán, just a little bit softer.
But he doesn't voice them very openly at the moment, right?
He doesn't, because he knows that this issue is highly divisive in Hungary, and unfortunately the public opinion now is, by a small majority, but more than 50% of the Hungarian public opinion voices a negative view on Ukraine as a whole. So for him, this is not a priority, but in Brussels, he stands with the EPP, with the European People's Party, so for example, with the current Polish government. So he's part of the Western coalition, but his position on these issues, for example, is much softer than the rest of the opposition, because he knows that his goal is also to attract some people who used to vote for Fidesz. He specifically targets those who are dissatisfied with Fidesz for economic or social reasons. So he voices a lot the current economic, social difficulties, high inflation, corruption, all those issues which can really represent a danger for Fidesz.
I've come across the term Fidesz orphans.
I'm sorry?
I've come across a phrase, Fidesz orphans, those who were orphaned.
He's one of them. Mm-hmm. He's one of them. He was really a believer. So he was raised in a right-wing conservative family. In the family, we have a former president of the Hungarian Republic, for example, Ferenc Madel. He was a conservative lawyer, a very respectable person. We have other important people. So this is a big family. This is an important family. So he doesn't come from nowhere. He comes. He has a very large and important political, social background, and this makes him even more difficult to tackle for Fidesz. And
so what measures can be undertaken by Viktor Orbán to actually tackle them if they pose a direct challenge to taking the power in Hungary?
Yeah, the word measures always reminds me the active measures we know very well from the Russian propaganda. So measures, of course, the most brutal thing you can imagine, of course, that would be, I would say, Belarus or Russian level is trying to ban the party or prevent him from becoming a candidate at the national elections next week. And from this point of view, I have to say that the Constitutional Court decision in Romania making null the elections last December might pave the way to similar, I would say, interesting moves in Hungary as well, because if you can prove, at least publicly, on the public plan, that someone might be a danger to national security because he has ties with foreign forces and agents, you can ban him. Of course, we know that in Romania, first, this guy, Călin Georgescu, that candidate, really had very interesting contacts with Russians or special forces having contacts with Russia. So it was documented. And second, his record track was everything but not democratic. In the case of Péter Magyar, Fidesz should try to prove the impossible. But my fear is that they might recur to this very radical measure if other softer measures like defamation, for example, or so-called administrative measures against the party do not work properly. So that would be the last resource.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
My guest was Stefano Bottoni, historian. I am Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World from Budapest, Hungary.